Hello one and all, this is my CZW Cage of Death 11 review. This is actually the first CZW show I have reviewed of the DJ Hyde era. A lot of people on the internet who I speak with or lurk and observe have said that DJ Hyde really has been the saviour of CZW. And when you look at this show, you'll see why. Now, a lot of the complaints people have about CZW, a lot of people just won't see past their previous conceptions. But this show, I would recommend people check out just to see how much things have actually changed. I mean, there's only 2 death matches on it, really, on an 8-match card, and compared to past Cage of Death shows, I feel like they've improved a lot. Instead of just putting too many crazy gimmick matches on, they focused on the feuds, they focused on putting on good matches, with steady foundations. They focused a bit more on the psychology of the matches themselves. There's some multi-man matches, and it still appeals to the old school CZW fans who want to see blood and guts and spot fests. But to an extent, it is presented in a way that it's much more easy to digest. The first match on the card, and I'm just going to go through the matches now. I'm not going to continue talking about the show itself. The first match on the card is the no-rope barbed wire match for the ultra-violent underground title between Nick Gage and Thumbtack Jack. Now, these two, I felt, they were playing off the whole Nick Gage splitting his armpit thing on a light tube at the last Tournament of Death, or the last proper Tournament of Death, not including the fast-forward or rewind ones. But this match itself, I really liked. I thought it was odd to put it as the opener, but the crowd was just so into it. There was CZW chants with so much enthusiasm that I hadn't heard previously. And when you're getting the fans to chant it like they used to, then you're doing something right. And it was a packed crowd and it seemed like everybody was into it. They wrestled really well. They didn't just rely on making each other bleed and raking each other's foreheads on barbed wire and throwing each other through glass. They did all that stuff, all that magical, wonderful stuff, but there was they didn't have to. You felt the crowd was reacting to things they didn't do in relation to throwing each other through glass. I mean, fucking the side headlock the crowd was getting into just because there was that much heat in the match. Whereas previously, if you'd done that in a CZW show, in a fairly major feud, fans might have chanted boring, but they were just really into this where you could do anything and the fans would get into it. And one of the surprising things about this match is how into Thumbtack Jack the fans were. Usually Nick Gage is the most over guy. I'm about to cry about it. Is the most over guy at shows. But in this one, Thumbtack Jack was just clearly a fan favourite. I mean, I think in the whole night, in the whole company, there might only be 2 or 3 people who were more over than him. And that's not entirely active wrestlers. But yeah, great match. And then you had JC Bailey come out of prison. He's been in prison for the past 2 or 3 years or something, and attack Thumbtack Jack with the guy from Cult Fiction, Billy Graham. And I will say, it's glad to see these off commentary, because now the commentary is just worlds better than it's ever been. I mean, ever. It's just great. It's really good commentary now compared to what it was, which isn't saying much, but I mean, I enjoy the commentary now. They actually talk about the wrestling, and they don't just constantly say fuck. But yeah, JC Bailey came out at the end of the match, so that was odd. But 3.5 stars for the opening match. Then we had DJ Hyde come out while they were putting the ropes up, and obviously to keep the fans interested. And then you had Nate H come out, say something, and DJ Hyde's like, fuck it, let's wrestle now, because they were scheduled to have a match. In street clothes, DJ Hyde started going out, and the crowd went nuts for it, and they're brawling through the crowd, and they're chanting CZW, and they're hitting each other with chairs in the back, going through tables. It was a fairly standard crowd brawl, 2.5 stars, but it did a lot to keep the fans' interest peaked, and one of the guys from Switchblade Conspiracy came in the ring and did a bit of an angle at the end. There was interference yet against DJ Hyde, yet he still won. I found that a bit confusing, but whatever. It's still an improvement on what would have happened a few years ago. So 2.5 stars for that. Then we had a number 1 contenders match, 4-way tag match. The Blackout, we all knew they were going to win. Azrieal and Bandido Jr., who are both good wrestlers. Naptown Dragons, OMG, and Scotty Vortex, good wrestlers. Team Macktion, who I haven't seen too much of before the show, but I'd seen enough to know that I liked them and wanted to see more. the winner was going to face the tag champions the same night. This was a pretty good match. As you'd expect with a 4-way tag match, spots. I'm going to do my spot on your guy, and then you're going to stop the pin, and that kind of match. And it really, the most memorable thing in the match, apart from all the cool spots, was Sabian breaking the rope. It was a hell of a night for Sabian, I will say that, and you'll find out why later. Broke the rope, and the thing is, the guys didn't lose a beat. They just kept going at it. Good spot fest of a match, so 3.25 stars for that. Then we had the CZW Junior Heavyweight title match. Greg Excellent, who's 280 pounds or 300 pounds. Maybe I'm going way off here. Maybe he's only about 250. But he's not a junior heavyweight. But he's wrestling for the junior heavyweight title against Drew Blood. Yes, the really short dude who nearly broke his neck at Best of the Best, the last one, against Egotitistico Fantastico. This match, even though Greg Excellent isn't a junior heavyweight, was a good junior heavyweight match, believe it or not. I felt it was really fun to watch. The crowd was into it. I didn't like the cake comedy bit at the end. I thought we could have done without that. Greg Excellent won. It was the junior heavyweight title. Won the junior heavyweight title. 3 stars for that. If it wasn't for the cake, I wasn't really into it ending. It wasn't really funny. I think it was supposed to be funny, but it wasn't really funny. I probably would have given it a little bit more, but 3 stars for that. And then we had a number 1 contenders match featuring B-Boy, great. Egotitistico Fantastico, great. Eddie Kingston, great. And John Moxley, great. I don't care what you say, True Slayer. But when you see that these guys are wrestling in a number 1 contenders match, you're just like, wow, this company's got some really good talent at the moment. And they do. I firmly believe that these guys, a lot of the guys that have are really talented. The match was a pretty standard, multi-man match where, the 2 guys do a bit of wrestling, knock someone out, do a bit of wrestling, knock someone out, and they just keep swapping the people around like a triple threat or a fatal 4-way match, because that's really what it was. It was just that, fairly standard, but an enjoyable match. The crowd, once again, was into it, and John Moxley, being the fucking heel he is, what was that? Won with a small package. Yay! I wanted John Moxley to win, and he knew he was going to win because he was the only heel in the match, really. And when you see 1 heel and 3 faces, you're like, heel's going to take it. Then we had the tag match, between the Best Around, who are the Bret Hart gimmick dudes, and Team Blackout. Team Blackout are feuding with these guys because their manager dude, I can't remember his name now, has sided with the Best Around. If somebody knows his name, please put it in the comment section. I hate it when I forget these things, and you need to teach me a lesson. The match itself was pretty good. There was a ladder spot where the Best Around was setting up the ladder on the outside, and Sabian just flipped over and hit the ladder. The guardrail was a bit out. Flipped over and hit the fans, and the fans started chanting, "That's a lawsuit." I don't know what he was thinking doing that. It was fucking stupid. You could have killed a fan, or maybe not killed a fan, but had a ladder hit them in the face. The match itself was ended with a shooting star press double stomp, and I can't remember the name of the guy who does the move in the Best Round, but he does it, and it looks fantastic, and it was done on a ladder onto one of the guys from the Blackout. Interference finish, as you'd expect. 3 stars for that. Would have gotten more if it wasn't for the ladder going into the crowd, and a little bit of an interference at the end. Then we had Devon versus Drake Young. Damn, I wish I had more time for these. This is a pretty standard match. I mean, Drake Young is a good wrestler and can carry guys to a good match. Devon Moore is also a good wrestler. They had a pretty good match, but they had Drew Blood interfere and give Drake Young a tombstone piledriver. I didn't really see the point in this. Drake Young seemed to really hurt his neck when this happened. Either he's one of the best guys at selling on the indie scene, or he really did legitimately hurt his neck. That was my initial thought of it. As I said, the wrestling was all really good in the match. They didn't need to resort too much to just beat. It wasn't a death match, but they didn't just resort to hitting each other in the head with chairs the whole time. There were chairs involved, and the ending was really good at Drake's landing through a table in the corner. That was set up so it was flat, horizontal. Drake's landing through the thing, through a table. Really good finish, really good match. 3.5 stars. Lost some points because of the whole neck thing, pile driver. Wasn't needed in the match, really. Then we had the electrified barbed wire cage of death with Sami Callihan versus Danny Havoc. This cage of death was actually quite simple compared to the previous years. There was a few panes of glass. There was the tangled web barbed wire nets on the sides, or the camera sides anyway, so you got a good view of the ring. You didn't have to worry about seeing through the cage, and I thought that was a good idea. But it was simplified, and the guys, Sami Callihan and Danny Havoc, both have a ton of charisma. They both, they're not just two angry dudes like in CZW in the past who are just feuding. They have different personalities and they conflict. And the match they had here proves why they're two of the best guys on the indie scene, I feel, at least deathmatch guys. They did a lot of crazy spots. They really hit each other in the head with chairs, which I don't condone. There was one spot when they were on the top of the cage, there was a scaffold above the cage, went to go through glass, the glass didn't break, so they bounced off it, they were doing a move through it, and they just hit the ring. I don't have enough time to do this match justice, but despite a few botched spots, this match was incredible. Maybe one of the best US death matches I've seen in a very long time. I'll give it 4 stars out of 5. They are just work so well together. If you've seen my IWA East Coast review, you'll know how I feel about them. And I'll give this show an 8 out of 10, probably my highest for a CZW show in a very long time.